All right, if you're tuning in to 102.3 FM, you're listening to a pre-recorded right now. We haven't started the show, so we're about to go live. You could live stream at whivfm.org from wherever you are if you have a computer. And if you are local, you can go to 102.3. You're listening to a pre-recording, but I'm going to get on the air in a couple of seconds. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for tuning in.
Think of others. Do not forget yourself and you have to think of others. Do not forget those who have lost their self-esteem. As you think of others far away, think of yourself. Say,
you got your friends listening in?
I don't know.
Yeah, you can hear the monitor?
Think of others from Mahmoud Darwish. And of course, I imagine this is a translation.
All right, yeah, we got already people on. So we're actually starting the show late
Sister
today.
Phyllis,
Which is all
has
good.
become a very dear friend of mine. Sister Phyllis shared several things with us. And one thing
There we go.
that she shared
All right.
was from a book, Animal Dreams by Barbara Kingsolver.
And that's where we're going to end that. And we're going to start the show a little late. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. You've tuned in to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3 FM, your community radio station for social justice and human rights and all wars. If you just tuned in, you are catching the beginning of the live broadcast, but a little bit earlier. If you were listening at 5, that was a pre-recorded show because the last show went a little bit into 5 o'clock, which is fine. We're community radio and we're a family here. We work together. And God knows that I have also done that to other hosts where I have gone a little long. So thank you for tuning in. This is Jenny Yanes on NOLA Matters, Islam in the Crescent City. If you've tuned in before, you know that WHIV is a member-supported community radio station dedicated to human rights and social justice. You can join in the radio revolution and sign up as a member of WHIV today. Simply go online at whivfm.org. Click the donate button and choose to become a monthly donor, or you can give a one-time gift. Any amount helps WHIV and supports the programming we bring to you 24/7. Thank you for listening, and we hope you will join us as a member. If you've tuned into NOLA Matters, Islam in the Crescent City before, you also know that we begin with the Muslim Minute. The Muslim Minute is where I share a reflection, usually a short surah, from a short ayah, from a surah of the Quran in translation, and also a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And I've reiterated this before, Muslims do not worship Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, but we do follow his traditions and his example. And so I share from the Word of God, which is in the Quran, and also from the hadith. So from translation in Surah 2, ayah 170 of the Holy Quran, and when it is said to them, follow what Allah has revealed, they say, rather we will follow that which we found our fathers doing, even though their fathers understood nothing, nor were they guided. And I'm going to share another short ayah today as well, from Surah 49, ayah 13. O people, we created you from a male and a female, and made you into nations and tribes so that you may know one another. Verily, the noblest of you in the sight of Allah, in the sight of God, is the most God conscious of you. Surely God is all knowing, all aware. So I think we may have brought this one up last week, but I wanted to be able to share that because we're going to be having a discussion about culture and similarities and differences, just a little bit touching on that, and from the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So give a little context to this. Once a group of Ethiopian converts began to dance with drums and spears in the Prophet's mosque, which we know is in Arabia, in celebration of an annual Islamic festival. The companion Umar, radiallahu anhu, may God be pleased with him, attempted to stop them, but the Prophet intervened and urged them to continue. In one hadith, he said to them, play your games, sons of Ethiopia, so that the Jews and Christians know there's flexibility in our religion. By this and similar acts, the Prophet set the precedent of affirming cultural differences and made it clear that for non-Arabs, entering Islam did not require them to give up their own cultural norms for those of the Arabs. And I'm sharing that is from an article called What Role Does Culture Play in Islam? And that's found on seekershub.org, seekershub.org. And that's, they quoted a hadith in the context of like a little bit what we're going to talk about today. And I want to share some announcements at the top of the hour because sometimes we wait till the end and we started the show a little bit late, so we don't want to miss out on that. Dr. Hatem Bazian, which is a leading expert on Islamophobia, he's a professor also in California, co-founder of Zaytuna University, will be in NOLA this weekend, and he is going to have a talk about brotherhood and, of course, sisterhood as well, in Masjid Omar, which is the West Bank Mosque, this Saturday after Isha prayers. If you have questions about what time that is and you would like to go and you're not someone who frequents the mosque, it's okay. You can email us at islaminthecrescentcity@gmail.com, or you can visit our Facebook page on NOLA Matters Islam in the Crescent City if you wanted to hear him talk. I'm sure that you will be welcomed in our mosque. And we also have this announcement to make. We have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Hatem Bazian, which is, for me, it's a big, huge treat while he is here. And we will share that recording on the next NOLA Matters Islam in the Crescent City, inshallah, God willing. So, as promised last week, because it was a very kind of fun show, two of my, can I call you guys besties?
Yes.
Two of my beloved Muslim sisters, and also who are Latina, were here last week and we had a lot of fun. And I said, we answer so many questions about Islam all the time, and it is an important identity that we have. And being Latina is also important to our identity and who we are. But we have a lot of things in common, and we also have some differences culturally. And that's why I began the Muslim Minute with this cultural perspective. So is culture and differences in culture allowed in Islam? Once you become Muslim, do we have to give up all of our culture? Now, we talked a little bit before the show, and there are some places where we disagree, and it may or may not come up in the conversation, we'll see. But definitely our cultures are varied and they're rich, and we brought them with us when we came into Islam, when we became Muslim. And one of those things are cultural interpretations, or I would say cultural gifts that we all have, is our language. Our language is just full of meanings that have something to do with context, with our culture. Sometimes you cannot translate terms exactly because it means something to you and in your culture or your, in your country. But when you translate, it's like there's not exactly words for that. And I didn't give him a lot of time to prepare because I wanted it to be kind of fun and kind of a little bit off the cuff. So I said that one thing that we would talk about is refranes, which would be like sayings. Mm-hmm. And some of them are easily translatable, right? Some of them we find that they're also part of in the English language and we translate them, and some of them are not. So I wanted to start by reintroducing our guest once again. So, assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show, Minerva Flores.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you for having me.
And we have Joan Rodriguez. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Que la paz esté con vosotras.
Igual a usted.
And somebody said to me, well, I listened in last week and I didn't understand half of what you guys were saying. And I was like, well, we did translate simultaneously. Most of the stuff we were talking about, we did translate. So we're going to, and I should say interpret. The correct term is interpret. Translate is in writing. When you take a piece of written Spanish and then you translate it into the English. If it's in writing, interpretation is when the spoken word. So I should use my words correctly. I apologize for that. So we want to say welcome to the show again. And we're missing a couple of guests, but that's okay. They're always welcome. And I know that 5 o'clock is a hard time. We did ask some questions. I asked some people to share, well, what's on your mind? What would you like me to ask the guests? So I'm going to start with that, and then we'll go into the refranes. So one question that I received before coming into the station is from another Latina Muslim sister who lives in the greater New Orleans community. Her name, she's Cuban, y'all. She's Cuban American, and her name is Jennifer. My name is Jenny. You guys coordinate. Yeah, she's also Latina. She's Cuban American and she's Muslim. And she sent me this question. I'm Latina, and mostly when I grew up, I was surrounded by either Catholic or Baptist people. Have the people of the countries of your guests today, so where Minerva's background's from, and we already know Joan's background is diverse, have the people of the countries of your guests today encountered much opposition from fellow Latinos? So let's start with Minerva. Reintroduce yourself. What's your family background and how do you identify yourself? Remember last week we mentioned, are you a woman of color? You're Latina? Are you Americana? So just reintroduce yourself for those people who may just be tuning in today.
Salam, my name is Minerva Flores. Both of my parents are from El Salvador. I was actually born here in California, but I lived in El Salvador for 6 years, so I always say I'm Salvadorian because when people ask, that's what they mean, where I'm from. I identify as all the above. So, I've encountered that people do always have something to say. I respect everyone, and I feel like if they accept me, good, and if not, well, good too. I've learned to accept not being accepted. So I'm always trying to be positive about everything. Sometimes we gotta learn that not everybody is so, willing and okay with it.
So I was online, I was on, I guess, social media, and there was these comments on the website where there's a lot of Latinos who are Muslim, and some people took offense to that. Other Latinos took offense to that. They were like, well, you should be Christian.
Yeah.
So that is, some people think, oh, because you're Latino, because you're Muslim, you are
supposed to be
a very
certain
cohesive group, and you're accepted because minorities, so minorities stick together, so Latinos stick together, Muslims stick together. But yeah, we got a reality check here. Even though Muslims are a minority in this country, and Latinos also are a minority in this country, it doesn't necessarily mean that now that you're Muslim and Latino, you're perfectly accepted in every sphere and space in your life. Actually, it is not the case. But
you stand out.
Exactly. You're very unique in every little group that you're
Exactly.
in. And I could just speak for myself. I had a professor once that said that I told her, I feel like I don't belong anywhere. And she said, Jenny, you belong everywhere.
Everywhere. Exactly.
And that really is, I try to think about that on the daily. It kind of helps me because sometimes in some spaces people think that they know you, but they don't go out of their way to try to know you. And I will give an example of that after we have Joan. Whether you just reintroduce yourself a little bit and answer that question. What do you feel? Do you want me to repeat the question or do you remember?
You can repeat it, please.
Okay, I'll repeat the question because Jennifer took the time to share with us. So she says, I'm a Latina, and mostly when I grew up, I was surrounded by either Catholic or Baptist people. Have the people of the countries of your guests today encountered much opposition from fellow Latinos? So first of all, how do you identify? Do you identify as Dominicana, Nicaraguense, Americana?
I am mixed, and I don't identify with one thing, just one thing. I'm just Dominican. It's everything. I'm everything. I'm a little bit of everything. So, and I do interact with people from both cultures, and Dominicans and Nicaraguans, and my American friends or my New Orleanian friends, or But yeah, I don't have any opposition with. I think, and I'm sorry if there's any Dominican listeners or viewers. I think that the Dominican culture is a little bit harsher with me. I mean, I don't know. For some reason, my Central American friends or family members are a little softer, and they just I don't know. I don't know.
More accepting.
I don't know. Yes, they're more accepting.
Right?
Not that I'm not accepting. It's not that they're not accepting, but they have more to say. Because they still accept me, they still love me, and I love them. I have many Dominican friends that I still see very often, and they just have more to say and more opinions and more questions.
I
and
think it's because
concerns.
they don't completely understand.
Yeah.
Well, also there's differences, right? So one of the things that I said that we would kind of have a conversation about on the show is that a lot of people see us as a homogenous community, Latinos, and we come from many different cultures, and there are differences amongst us. So I love to talk about our similarities, and I think we did that in the last show, but we also have differences within our cultures.
The cultures, yes.
And Dominican culture is caribeño in a way, but no todos los caribeños son iguales. So Cubans and Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, caribeño means from the Caribbean, so people from the islands, and which does not really include people from Bahamas because they're English speaking, so it's a little bit of different level of differences in the culture there because of the different colonizers, I would say. Just briefly, because we only have an hour.
Yeah, but like the Dominican culture, I feel it's a little more outspoken, a little bit more passionate. Maybe you can say. I'm not going to say Nicaraguans or Central Americans aren't, but I just feel like they just.
I don't know. You got somebody from Central America,
Central American,
but part of my culture is Cuban, so I would, one thing that people say is like. Some people in my life will say is that Jenny, you're too passionate, and I was like, no sé de qué estamos hablando. If you know other Cubans, you would see real passion. I'm like trying to.
Yes, it's so hard to have to try to tone it down a little bit.
I've toned it down a lot since I became Muslim. So
have I toned it down?
Not even.
I mean, it's like, you could take the girl out of the barrio, but you can't take the barrio out of the girl, right?
I've heard that one.
I don't know what to tell people.
Not from El Salvador, but I got loud here in New Orleans. So it's a New Orleans thing.
That too. It's also a New Orleans thing.
Yeah, because it's New Orleans roots, right?
Yes.
So New Orleans is Creole roots. I mean, you have
Exactly.
Caribbean here, right? And also, even if you can go further back to Spain. So we do definitely have, I think, a little bit of salsa criolla that other cities around the country may not have. So I'm sorry for them, but that.
I know, right? Missing that spice.
So, thank you, Jennifer, for your comments. I really appreciate it. And she's welcome on the show as well.
Yes.
I know, I don't know how you guys met her. Have you met Jennifer? Yes, I'm not the only Cuban Muslim in the city. There's at least one or two others.
Evelyn también.
Oh, then there's more than two others because Evelyn.
But to answer that question, even though we get any kind of opposition or concerns or remarks, you're still within the certainty that Islam is your deen and that's your choice, and it's the in your heart, in your mind, it's the right way of life. So all it takes is a little bit of clarification with love, a little bit of just show them and explain it to them, because a lot of times it's just that they don't know. Like I said, I have so many Dominican friends, and they're just that they don't know. They still have these erroneous ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you just have to, with love, explain it to them, and they're not going to hate you. They're not going to stop talking to you. They still going to love you. They still going to, need a little bit of Jennifer, a little bit of JoJo, a little bit of Mimi in their life. So they're not going to stop talking to you. They're not going to exclude you.
I heard that. And lastly, for those who didn't tune in last week, we'd ask if you also identified as women of color. And Joan said the funniest thing also. And so you both also said that. And I'm still waiting on my DNA test, pero esperen sentada, no esperen gran sorpresa. We'll see. I don't expect a lot of surprises, but I'm excited about that. And that should be interesting. But regardless of our DNA, our culture plays a big influence, right? And we don't have to accept all parts of our culture, which is part of being Muslim. So in Cuban, let me bring this up. In Cuban culture, the staple food is basically pork. Lechon.
Yeah.
Lechon asado. This is like the staple food. So people are like, oh, Cuban sandwiches are so delicious. And so Cuban sandwiches are composed of ham and then roasted pig, to go with the ham. Because, it's a different animal. So it's like, and then,
it needs more.
It needs more. So this is obviously part of Cuban culture that I had to leave behind. So, I kind of traded it for the cabrito, like my friend would say, or lamb, right? For lamb meat, when it's prepared well, it's delicious. And I definitely have friends who are vegetarian as well. Interestingly, I don't know any Latinas who are vegetarian, but there has to be.
I've tried.
Interestingly, all my vegetarian Muslim friends are American.
Yeah, it's hard for Latinas. Like, that's a big part of our culture, too.
It is.
The meat.
Yeah. Well, it's us here today, so there's probably somebody listening somewhere to 102.3 FM. Somewhere out there going, I'm Latino, I'm vegetarian, you don't speak for me.
Yeah.
So if you're that person, then you can contact us on NOLA Matters in Salmon, Crescent City. We'll have you on, and we'll ask you how do you do that vegetarian.
How do you do it? Show us your ways.
Yes, please.
There's many ways to express, to be an individual within your culture as well. So if you're just tuning in, this is Jenny Yanis on NOLA Matters. And you've tuned in to WHIV LP New Orleans, your community radio station for social justice and human rights and all wars. You can catch us on 102.3 FM locally, or you could go to WHIVFM.org and live stream from anywhere around the world. WHIV is a member-supported community radio station dedicated to human rights and social justice. You can join in the Rarity Revolution and sign up as a member of WHIV today. Simply go online at WHIVFM.org, click the donate button and choose to become a monthly donor, or you can give a one-time gift. Any amount helps WHIV and supports the programming we bring to you 24/7. Thank you for listening to this show and to the station, and we hope you will also join us as a member. And the most generous time of the year for Muslims is coming up soon, which is maybe the most generous time of the year for Muslims?
Ramadan.
And I said
May 15th or 14th?
It's coming soon.
Yeah.
It's coming soon. And I said we were going to talk about refranes, and so I hope to really touch on some of those. But since we brought up Ramadan is coming up. Me salió acento.
Yeah. Roll that R.
There are some new Muslim sisters in our community, and one of the things that they ask is, so what do we eat during Ramadan? And so I'm thinking I'll eat anything I can when it's time to eat. Same
here.
When it's time to break fast, especially if you feed me. If I'm in a Muslim's house, I'm in the mosque, I'm somewhere, if this is halal, if this is, if this is all good for us to eat, there's no pork, no alcohol, and especially for me, I don't need sabiha, so that's another conversation.
Yeah.
But I would be I'm happy to eat it, not very picky. But some people do have these rituals, food that they like to eat before they start their fast in the morning, or when they break their fast or open their fast later on in Maghrib time, when the sun goes down. Are you guys like that? Do you have any food that you prefer to eat during Ramadan when you've been fasting all day, or not?
No, I don't eat anything.
Yeah.
As long as it's a biha and halal, like you said, I'll eat anything. But it is, we actually talked about this at our last little meeting that we have every other Saturday. We just had this Saturday. We talked about that Ramadan, and we discussed what is better to eat, just to kind of be a little bit more filling and more nutritious. And we were talking about yogurts and oatmeals, things that they're gonna hold into your just give you a little bit more throughout the day. But yeah, we actually just talked about that. So if y'all want to join us, newcomers and sisters, join us.
Give us some more details about that.
Is it this Saturday coming? No. The following Saturday, we will be at Abu Bakr. We say 6:30, but most of the time it's 7. And
I'm not going to say nothing about it. There's a joke there. There's a joke there. I'm not going to touch it.
And we are not upstairs where the sisters normally sit and pray. We're going to be downstairs in one of the rooms that are by the library. So just come in and look for us, and we can talk about all those things, all those questions that you have. And there's so many of us, and we all have a little bit to give. So come join us. And
you made a good point about something nutritious, because if you're going to be fasting with 14 hours or however long it is this year, you do really need protein. It kind of gives you energy. So it's good. It's good to prepare beforehand, and not find out that you're opening the fridge at 4 o'clock in the morning and that you don't have anything that you want to eat at that time.
Yeah.
So that's be prepared is good. Dates. I keep a very Islamic tradition of opening my fast, I don't like to say breaking the fast, but when you've been fasting all day and then it's time to finish fasting for the day, when the sun goes down, the Prophet, peace be upon him, his tradition was to have a date or 3 dates or 5 dates, an odd number of dates. They found out that there's a lot of nutritional content in the dates, and just having a little bit of sugar before you have a larger meal kind of helps you
Get going.
You get, a little bit of sugar. And again, I'm not a medical professional and I don't have those benefits in front of me, but I probably will bring that up in the Ramadan show, and I've talked about it before, but there are benefits.
I've heard a lot of people do that, and I don't mind that too.
The reason I do it is because it's sunnah.
Yeah.
So if you do something that the Prophet, peace be upon him, did because he did it, then you get the blessings of it. And then it turns out that there's also physical benefits to it.
Right.
But I did it just for a religious reason. So, and dates are not something that are found in my culture, not in Cuban culture, but in España, they eat dates. And they, it's something that obviously from the long traditions of having Muslims in Spain. But higos, figs, is something that, my mom would like to have in the house too, and it's high in minerals and all that stuff. But yeah, the morning spread at 4 a.m., my table is very diverse, right? Because my family is diverse. So I will have anywhere from eggs to milk and cereal to like yogurt to oatmeal to my son will have like leftover rice and meat at that time. It's like that came from the Islamic influence of the Desis and the Arabs in our community, especially the Desis. He can eat biryani at any time of the day.
Oh, yes, though. Me.
So I'm glad we brought that up. And I want to ask about Eid celebrations, because this is something that converts, y ahí empezó la carita triste, porque cada vez que hablamos del Eid es el momento más triste de los convertidos muchas veces, porque ya sabemos que cuando llega el Eid, ¿dónde vamos? ¿Qué voy a hacer? ¿Con quién estamos? No tengo mi familia, no me entiende, no saben lo que es Eid, no lo vamos a celebrar. Let me kind of interpret that a little bit. So Eid is a little bit of an interesting conversation for the converts, and there have been multiple articles written about this recently in American Muslim publications. And we don't have to keep it a secret. I mean, at one point in time, we would all be like, "Yay, Eid is awesome!" And it is awesome. It is one of two. There's 2 Eids every year. They're the biggest Islamic holidays in the Islamic calendar, and they are a time to celebrate, to give each other gifts, to wear new clothes, to really a time of celebration. Like for the Christians, for an example, not to compare because it's not the same celebration, but to compare with the festiveness of it and the expectations that we have year round for it. To compare with like Christmas and Easter, right? Yeah. But then we look forward to Eid. We're like, okay, at the end of Ramadan, and Eid al-Fitr, we're so excited. We have our new clothes and we're going to the prayer. And then ends up happening, it is like you go pray in the morning, 7, 8 in the morning, and you're dressed nice, and then you have nothing to do. None of your family is Muslim, and maybe your spouse or your parents, if you're blessed that way. Maybe your children are Muslim. Maybe your in-laws, maybe not. In Minerva's case, she's not married. In my case, I don't have extended family who's Muslim who lives here. And so sometimes you're like, well, how do we celebrate?
Right.
And there's like nothing to do.
Yeah.
Am I alone here?
No, it's a letdown.
Am I being Debbie Downer?
No, you're not. It's the truth. That's how
you go and share a little bit, because I don't want to be the only voice here.
It's funny because we were talking about this the other day as well. We were talking about how previous years, I believe, we would get together, or the community would get together. What we said, the Alarium?
The Alarium Center and the Pontchartrain Center, like they would do big community prayers.
Yes.
For that morning prayer.
Now it's like on this side or the other side, and
2 or 3 different.
Yeah, like her family's Christian, my family's not here, and they're Christian as well. So sometimes we try to get together, but it is sad. It needs to be more of us, and hopefully this year will be different because we're doing the get-togethers on Saturday, more Latinas, more converts, and inshallah.
We could plan something for sure.
Yes.
Do something.
So here's the thing: we don't have to only hang out with other Latinas.
No. Of course not. Everyone is welcome.
Right, but there's food that
we like.
Share.
Yeah, exactly.
Like. There's also the language thing, like we're gonna bust out speaking
Spanglish.
There are things que nos unen. There's things that unite us. And let me give you an example about the food. One time and I'm not gonna give too many details of the place and time, but there was a gathering, a community gathering, and everybody was asked to bring like a dish, an ethnic dish, I guess. I don't know how plates are ethnic, but I guess it means like a recipe from your heritage or your traditional.
Yeah, lo que decimos plato típico.
Plato típico. Mm-hmm. So we were asked to bring an ethnic dish, and this is a place where most people are Muslim from immigrant cultures, I would say. And so my mom made enough plates. She made picadillo, yuca, platanito fritos, and con moros y cristianos, right? So we have, which is black beans and rice, which is moros y cristianos, a little bit different con gris, but sometimes it's called con gris. And then we had picadillo, which is ground beef seasoned in a special way. We had fried plantains and yuca, which is cassava roots, which is not recognized by everyone. It's one of my favorite meals. It's super delicious. Delicious. Yeah. And so my mom brought enough, it was an activity that they were selling plates, like people would buy it from different places. And I have to tell you, ladies, you know how good it is. You guys believe it?
Yes.
Half Dominican here.
We couldn't give them away. They don't sell them. People were like, why is the rice black? Why is the rice black? Wow. It's like, what's black beans? And, sweet, why do you have, like, sweet? Even though there's some countries that, and it didn't even occur to me. Like, I was so happy to introduce my cultural dishes to other community members. After years of eating makluba and biryani, which I love. Yeah. One is like a, Arab dish. One is an Indian dish, which some Pakistanis also prepare. And I've been told it was originally Indian, but I'm going to get in trouble for that. I'm sure somebody's going to say, no, it's Pakistani. I'm sorry if I don't get it right. So I have been enjoying all these different foods that I didn't grow up with for years. Oh, thank you. And what did the Prophet, peace be upon him, if he didn't like a dish, or he didn't like a food, he would leave it. He wouldn't say like, ew, this is not sunnah, this is not our way. If he didn't like a dish, he would leave it. He wouldn't say it's yucky. But yeah, some people were like, what is that? So I was like, okay, I am making my cultural dishes anymore. But I really appreciate when I go to Minerva's house and she has food that I haven't eaten in forever because it has pork in it if I go to the restaurant. So this is, sometimes it does unite us. It's not that we're being divided, but like, have you ever been to an Arab's house? And you're like, oh, qué pena, why don't you have platanitos?
No. Oh my gosh, that's what my mother-in-law said. I don't want molajea, make me some fried plantain.
That's what I'm saying. I've never done that. But the other way around, like if you invite people from other cultures to your house, I know a lot of Desis and Arabs who come to my house and they'll eat whatever I make, but they're my friends. Yeah. But in terms, so I'm not talking about my friends. I'm talking in terms of in terms of our mosques, when we really don't mix and understand each other's cultures as much as we could. Yeah. For example, in the evenings of Ramadan,
it's hard because it seems kind of like they don't really try, but you don't want to say that, like you don't want to blame that on them, you don't want to do that, but it just kind of seems that's why you get left out. Because, and I was going to say, after Eid they all go off with their families and they have their big family breakfasts, and then it's like, what about the ones that don't have the big families to have, so that's why we kind of feel like, oh, like Eid doesn't really, but that's why we say that we want to do something, we want to try to incorporate. Because, like you said, it's such a happy, festive celebration type of. We want it to be like decorate the house and
feel. In the past, there have been community festivals where everybody's welcome. Usually our traditional foods are not found in those places. So it's wonderful. A lot of good intentions. We get to be with each other, and it's great. But we started the show with culture. Right, so culture is allowed in Islam, so it's great. It's we've explored other tradition, I guess, quote unquote, cultures that are traditionally Muslim cultures, I would say, but not really. Even those words are wrong. So like for example, Pakistani food is Pakistan is a majority Muslim country, so now their food becomes food that we have in our mosque. Yeah. But the Prophet, peace be upon him, didn't eat that food. But I love that food, so that's okay. So the same way, we slowly have to introduce our foods to these events that the community has.
And and you know what? We can't leave them all out, because there is a restaurant on the West Bank. I don't know if I can say the name, but they even started doing Taco Tuesday, and it's a Mediterranean restaurant. Yeah, I don't know. So I look for it because I'm gonna be there this Tuesday. People do try. We can't say it's everybody, but it's just hard for us to find sometimes. So if you do see a person that doesn't look like they have a family with them, tell them, hey, just try. Invite them.
Yeah, that would be. It is a family thing, but sometimes we are family. We're all family in Islam, and every now and then, it it wouldn't be such a bad thing to extend the invitations to
Yeah.
our convert brothers and sisters and have them bring a dish. This is my suggestion. Have them bring a dish like to your home that's different than what you would serve, just so you can get to know each other.
Right. And so your kids also don't grow up with that same mentality. Because then the kids are like, what is
More
that?
open-minded.
Because mommy and daddy do it, so they're going to do it too.
So that, thank you for sharing that Taco Tuesday thing, because tacos is not something in Cuban culture. So it should actually, mi abuelito, I took him once to have Mexican food. When he visited New Orleans, he passed away in, I think it was 2003, and 2002, I'm sorry. And he came to New Orleans and he met my daughter. And I took him to eat Mexican food, and he kind of politely just looked at it, and he picked at it, and I was like, "Abuelito, you don't like it?" He's like, "I've never had it." See, and we were very, very close, and at that moment, it's like like a movie where all of a sudden you start seeing all these images flash in front of your eyes, and all of a sudden, all the restaurants we had ever been to in my whole life with my grandfather started to flash before my eyes. And they were all restaurantes españoles, all of them. They were like food from Spain.
What he used to eat.
Yes, and I mean, and maybe there was like some American diners in there thrown in the mix. Then I realized, oh, my grandfather hasn't had this food, And I was like, oh, okay, abuelito. It was interesting for me because you should know your grandparents. That's when I was raised with them. But yeah, so even some people don't realize that, so all Latinos eat tacos. Well, that's not true. My grandfather almost lived his entire life into his late 80s without ever trying Mexican food. Wow. And I didn't even know this.
And you were the one that introduced him.
I was the one that introduced him. In New Orleans. I don't even know where we went.
In Spain, do they cook with a lot of spicy picantes?
No.
So that's even a big difference too. Because I brought my cousin to Taco Tuesday, and in Central America, I mean, it's there, but they don't use it as much as Mexican dishes have it. And she was just like, "Where's the water?"
Even Cuban food.
Not so spicy,
not picante.
But we, by us being in this melting pot of cultures.
Yeah, New Orleans. Crawfish.
We like the spice.
Since we're talking about food, now I'm getting hungry. The refranes went out the window.
We got distracted by the food.
Since we're talking about food, ¿qué sería un plato típico nicaragüense? ¿Qué sería un plato típico dominicano? What would be a typical Dominican dish versus a Nicaraguan dish? And the same thing with you, Minerva.
Okay. Plato típico del Salvador would be pupusas.
A lot
of people are very not knowledgeable about what it is. So it's pretty much like a tortilla with cheese and beans. And they put pork in it, but I make mine's just cheese and beans.
It's still good.
And just by the sound of the word though, because it's like es una palabra como indígena del Salvador. Entonces, sorry, I went back to Spanish. Entonces viene pupusas, por eso son nombrados así, por estos indios del Salvador. I forgot their names right now. But a lot of people hear that, pupusas, and they're like, it sounds like pupu. Entonces no lo quieren probar o no quieren saber. Entonces tiene frijoles adentro.
But it's
mashed beans. So son frijoles molidos. So people are very like
the diversity, right? The diversity in our food. I've had pupusas, and when the first time I grew up in Miami, I came here in my early 20s, and first time I had a pupusa was on the west bank of New Orleans.
Ooh, I'm so proud of that.
When I used to work with Fuentes, and we would go to this specific restaurant, and it was the first time. And I had to ask a million questions, and I asked in Spanish, and they're looking at me like, she knows Spanish. Yes, and then I said, you're best friends. And I said, okay, you need to tell me que pupusa tiene puerco y si le echas manteca de cerdo algunas, and they would tell me so I would know which ones to eat or which ones not.
Yeah. So a lot of people do make them with lard. I just use regular vegetable oil, and if you say revueltas, that means like everything in it. So it has pork, cheese, and beans. If you say queso con frijoles, it's just the cheese and the beans, or just cheese.
You have to
solo de queso,
yeah.
You have to be very specific and tell them what you want in it. And they usually ask you like how you want them, what kind you want.
Yo, girls, I'm hungry now.
I know, man.
Now I want to go home and make some pupusas.
Yeah, please make some pupusas.
I'll go. And now I want to go to your house and some. What about you, Joan? Anything typical Nicaraguense?
I thought of the same thing. I thought of bao. That is a steamed, but the word bao, it's so funny because the Caribbean, I don't know if in Cuba, dicen bajo. ¿Qué es ese bajo? Like, what's that stench?
That's
So
yeah.
whenever, I have that clash in culture sometimes.
I would say peste. I don't know. I would say
Well, they sing in another political they sing bajo.
Bajo.
In Puerto Ricans, I think say it, so like, que bajo. So that it's so funny because when I first heard bao, I was like, am I going to eat that? Am I going to like that? Why is it called bao? But then that was when I was in Nicaragua. But it's like it's a plato típico también. It's like a big pot. And they line it with plantain leaves, and it's cooked usually over a fire, and it's like yuca, which is a cassava root, and beef. Yes.
Just anything with yuca.
And plantain chunks in there.
We're going to have to end the show a little early, guys, because the hunger
We're
has come. It's a good thing we're not fasting, because we would still have 2 more hours
that
to
would
go.
be bad, yeah.
2 more hours to go fasting.
Really bad.
I think we
But
can do
the
it.
bao is good. The bao is good. It's so good. And then, so it steams and it just sits there for hours. And then when you take it out the pot, it's just like crumbly and just delicious. And the beef is like super soft. And when
I don't think I've ever had that.
I take my husband to Nicaragua, and they're just the same as just Americanized. And also in the Egyptian culture, tampoco, they have never seen something like that. So the beef, he was just kind of worried about it.
Oh, you gave me an idea for a question, because Americanized. This is awesome. ¿Qué es lo que es eso? In Cuba, we say gringo.
Yeah,
gringo. No sea gringa. Like if you you put something in front of, if I put something in front of my kids and they're like, what is that? I'm like, I'd be like, no sea gringa. Don't be like American about it, I guess. Like it's and I know John Wayne used that term, maybe gringo or something, like in the old westerns or whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, the literal meaning of gringo, I'm not going to share it on the air because
it's not nice.
It's not a bad word. It's not a bad word, but we're just going to leave it that people can go to
You
shit
can look
and
it
go
up.
on.
Yeah. Pretty much
And,
a
do their own
gringo.
research. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know if it's considered like some people don't like the word gringo or not. I don't know. Haven't used it in a long time, but it's kind of like Americanized.
Yeah, a little Americanized.
But what does Americanized mean, actually? Interesting. It's a term that we use. Yeah, we don't want to talk about it in mixed company. No, I think it's this idea. I'm just going to share why not. I think, and I haven't really thought about it. I think it's kind of this idea that if it's different from this very set norm of where you grew up in, then it's not as good, or that you don't want to take the risk. Whereas this is not one of my cultural concepts. Is if it's different, it's different. Try it. Maybe it's good.
Yeah.
And that's what I always say. Try it and then see if you like it. Don't say no off the
the
jump. Yeah, just because of how it looks or something. It might surprise you. You might,
Exactly. That is be open-minded.
Exactly.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think, let's just be honest, because we're talking in front of others and that's not polite. I think part of the connotations of Americanizado is that don't be close-minded.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's what it means in our cultures.
It
means close-minded. And actually, gringo actually means the same thing.
Yeah,
it's like close-minded. Which is interesting because I hadn't actually verbally kind of shared that or processed that. It's just something that we know, which is kind of interesting too. That is a stereotype. That I'm sure that some people have stereotypes of Latinos, but it also goes around. So we need to get to know each other more. Maybe it's not true. Maybe it's I know a lot of people that would disagree with that term, but let's be honest. At least we shared it.
Yeah.
We might have time for one refrán each. So pick it well. Refrán is saying. So who's gonna start with the refrán?
Fácil.
There's a lot of Cuban refranes, like a lot.
Yo sé que dicen el que madruga, Dios le ayuda. El que madruga, Dios le ayuda. So if you wake up early, pretty much God is with you. You're gonna get your day started early.
I like that.
Yeah.
And it rhymes. And it says God, and
Yeah.
God will help you. I think the English version of that is the early bird gets worm.
Yeah.
So that one is transferable. I mean, you can translate that. What about you, Joanne? You got one?
And there's one that I've always heard, but I don't know what it means. And maybe I don't know if you can translate it. And maybe when you translate it, then I'll know what it means. Pero cuando dicen, más cuesta la sal que el chivo.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. Yes.
Yeah.
There's something new. Well, let's translate. Interpret it. Let's interpret it literally. What would the literal interpretation be?
I don't know.
Dilo otra vez. Say it again.
Más cuesta la sal que el chivo. So the salt is more expensive than the goat.
Salt's more expensive than the goat.
Or maybe not expensive.
I don't think it's expensive. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
It costs more to get.
Yeah, to get, like, digamos en el mar, la arena y la sal. I don't know, like, granito por granito, no sé, el chivo is, like, bigger. I don't know.
Okay, this is
you
what
guys
If y'all know what it means, let us know. Interpret that for us.
This is what I grew up with. Let me know if you've heard it. Al pan y al vino vino.
No, it's
Al pan y al vino vino. It sounds nice. It's like, you call the bread, and the wine is the wine. What do you think that means?
Oh, now I get it.
Like to each their own.
Don't try to say something is something when it's not. Like be straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah, call it as it is.
Yeah, call it
as
it is. Exactly.
Yeah.
That makes
El
sense.
pan y vino vino. And I grew up with that a lot. Y,
I'm gonna start using that.
dime con quién eres, te diré quién eres.
Yes.
Mi mamá a mí.
No, y el que anda en la miel algo se le pega.
Oh, okay, let's translate that. Dime con quién andes, te diré quién eres. Translate, interpret. One of you interpret that for us.
In English it would be tell me who you with and I'll tell you who you are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It tells you a lot about
who your friends,
your
the company that you
keep.
It says,
or el que yo dije, el que anda en la miel, whoever is in the honey, something will stick. El que anda en la miel, algo le pega.
Algo se le pega.
Okay, so there's a theme here because what I'm going to say is the same theme as y'all's. De tal palo a la astilla. De tal palo a la astilla. So I think it's in the English translation would be the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yep, that's it. Or the one I said earlier, en casa de, ¿cuál era? En casa de Fredo.
No vale.
No.
Casa de Fredo, asador de palo. Algo así.
What does that one mean?
In a home where everyone is an iron maker, I guess, iron worker, whatever, then their stove is out of wood.
Huh. Ah, mi mamá me dice algo así a veces when she's mad at me. She says,
It's always the moms.
¿cómo es candil de la calle? Oscuridad.
Ese es otro
She's
en mi
mad. She
casa.
says that. Yeah, well, I think we should interpret that just to be fair. Candil de la calle, oscuridad. So if you bring a lot of light to the world, but your house is dark.
Yeah,
that means where have you been all day?
Yeah.
What
you been doing?
Yeah, you give the best of you to others, and
you come home.
That's an
way.
insult in Latino household. And I'm like,
yeah, my mom told her something, mama.
You know, when they say that means that yeah. So that's all the time we have for today, ladies. I hope people enjoyed this conversation. And I mean, if it wasn't quite obvious, we didn't. If it wasn't obvious that we didn't plan this beforehand, it would not have been as fun. If we had sat around and planned, okay, we're going to talk about this. No, it's much more fun to, just be who we are, and then we share that with the world. And I really appreciate that you're doing that, and that I appreciate you guys are my friends. I love you both.
We love you more.
I'm going to send a quick shout out to Elaine, who is celebrating a future baby. One more Muslim hashtag.
Yeah.
One more Muslim.
Hashtag.
One more American Muslim. So congratulations to Elaine, and thank you for tuning in. This has been Jenny Yanes on NOLA Matters Islam in the Crescent City on WHIVLP 102.3 FM, your community radio station for social justice and human rights. I'm Minerva. Joan, to all the Latina sisters out there, not just in New Orleans, but all over the world. We love you. And bring some, congri, what is it? Some bao, some
fresas, yuca, un poquito de todo.
Yeah. To the potluck at the masjid.
Yes.
And then contact us and tell us how people liked it, because we'd love to hear from you and just bring culture to the world, ladies.
Right.
And brothers too. I should have said brothers too.
Yes.
Too.
All right. Salamu alaikum. Peace be upon you.
This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine.
Oh, that's the stuff. I like it.